Welcome to Melt University. This series will help you build your brand, inform you on a variety of career paths, and introduce you to top executives in sports and marketing. Now, here's your host, the president and CEO of Melt, one of the largest independent sports and event marketing agencies in the country, Vince Thompson.
Welcome back, students, virtual Melt University. We are rolling on from the summer into the fall, into September. Hopefully some college football. You're back in your dorm safely, hopefully. Your fraternity house, sorority house, campus, hybrid, virtual, whatever it is. But we're doing a lot of amazing, great things with Melt University. We appreciate all of your letters and cards and testimonials and responses. And today we have a very, very special treat for you and a very special guest, one of my dearest friends and dearest people in the world to me. And I don't even know how to begin to describe her and our friendship and our relationship. But Kasia Horner is the director for public affairs and communications for the Coca-Cola company, which is an amazing job that she's on the front lines of all the communications for the company. But she and I go back many, many years. I like to say I met her when she was 19, but we have been working together. We met back in, I believe, 03 or 04.
02.
02. Oh my God, 02. And we had worked together on many Final Fours together, built the whole entertainment platform, their whole brand platform. It was the largest sponsorship they'd done at the time. And really just, really just have been on amazing journeys together. And as we talk a lot about the relationship building and nurturing and maintaining, and that's professional, personal. I mean, she and I are sort of the poster child for how it's done. And just I can't even we could write a whole book and do a whole podcast on the fun journeys that we've had together. But she oversaw the NCAA relationship before she went into the public affairs and communication role with the Coca-Cola company. As I said, the largest deal they have, working with many thousands of constituencies, the NCAA, the schools, the teams, the coaches, the sports, the major television networks, Turner and CBS, and really could write the playbook on how it's done. And it's also a great example of she was a very successful student athlete at Williams College in field hockey. We always talk about how much we love student athletes and NIL and all that. But Kasia Horner, welcome to Virtual Melt University today.
Thank you, Vince. Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be asked to be a part of this lineup. I've been watching this play out on Instagram, and every week it's another heavy hitter. Not that I'm one of them, but I'm excited to be a part of the group.
No, you are a heavy hitter and very, like I said, very inspirational to me. But before we sort of dive into kind of what you do and where those opportunities are, we sort of like to take it all the way back to your experience at college and sort of talk about your passion. Obviously, you were a very successful student athlete and won national championships and things of that nature. So I'm going to make an assumption that you always had a passion for sports, even back in the college. Obviously you played, but you'd had a passion not only to be playing in it, but you had a passion to be around it. And we talk to our kids a lot about pursuing their passion at school. So talk about a little bit about your passion and how that has guided your path.
Of course. So Vince, as you know, I went to Williams College, which is a Division III liberal arts school up in Massachusetts. And I went there, if I'm being really honest, would not have gotten into Williams if not for field hockey and lacrosse. So they don't have scholarships or anything like that, but went there. Field hockey and lacrosse really threw me over the threshold in order to get into Williams. So attended Williams for 4 years, played field hockey and lacrosse all 4 years. And when I graduated, or while I was in college, I just thought, being a coach, of course, playing field hockey and lacrosse my whole life growing up, I it's natural for someone who's been, deeply involved in sports for that long to want to be a coach. And I thought about that for a long time and always had that in the back of my mind. But when I graduated from college, I kind of went on the path that most of the people that I was friends with, and that was kind of the traditional path out of Williams, which was I got a job as a financial analyst for a real estate company. At the time, it was called LaSalle Partners. Now it's called Jones Lang LaSalle. And I was an economics major in college, and just was kind of going through like a cookie cutter path that some of my peers were also going down. And so went to work for Jones Lang LaSalle for 4 years, and for 2 years in Baltimore and 2 years in San Francisco. And those 4 years after college were great because it was amazing experience. Having financial experience was fantastic. I met a lot of really interesting people. I learned a lot about the corporate world, but just realized going through that experience that I wasn't passionate about real estate. I didn't care to read about it. I didn't care to talk about it on the weekends. And just really kind of had this calling of this isn't the right thing for me. And
you knew it within inside of yourself. There was a kind of a gnawing that it just wasn't right.
Exactly. And I was around people that were really passionate about it, and just knew like that's not me. So I going from being a financial analyst into the sports world, and everybody knows entry-level jobs in the sports world are few and far between. I decided to go back to business school so that I could begin the process of some type of career change. And so in my application for business schools, I talked about wanting to become an athletic director. And that was sort of my, applying the business principles that I had learned, and the tools and skills, and taking that into more of the general area of sports. And one question that might be in people's minds is why didn't you become a coach? And just being completely transparent and honest, I would have loved to have become a coach, but part of my sort of personal, one of my personal goals was I did not want to be as a woman who had parents that were divorced. I did not want to be dependent on anyone, and wanted to be able to have a career where if I needed to, I could support a family. And just at the time, what coaches made, and
Right.
I'm sure they're still probably not paid enough, especially for female college coaches, but knew that I wanted to kind of stay in the business world. And so went back to business school. I went to the Tuck School of Business at Dartmouth up in New Hampshire, and was there for 2 years. And Vince, kind of tapping back into one of the things that you said earlier, while I was in college, one of the things my dad said to me when he dropped me off was I want you to have a good time in college. I want you to get good grades. I want you to study and succeed. But the most important thing that will happen to you in these 4 years at college will be the people that you meet and the relationships that you establish there. And and to this day, I always take that to heart, that relationships are really at the core of pretty much everyone's success. It's who you know, and not just who you know in a superficial sense, but who you know and have an authentic relationship with. And I think that really is one of the things that if I'm successful, that would be one of the things I think I'm successful at, is building relationships and maintaining them. And while I was in college, I developed some relationships with some really, really incredible people. that became very good friends of mine. And in business school, I tapped back into those relationships and, started to kind of get the word out that I was trying to do a career change, and was hoping to get into the sports industry. And through a series of, incredibly serendipitous events, I, through some Williams connections, met someone who knew someone, tapped into a Williams relationship, and they introduced me to some friends of theirs, and ended up with an internship in between my 2 years at Dartmouth. I did an internship with the Coca-Cola company in the Worldwide Sports Group.
Uh-huh.
And while I was there,
in Atlanta.
In Atlanta, yes.
So you
It was
made a series of fortunate connections because you were building and maintaining these relationships. You were mining the relationships, and we always, we talk about the value relationships, and we talk about that RE is the first two letters of relationship, and RE the first two letters of reciprocal. We're going to tap back into that, but so you're mining these relationships, and then you wound up in Atlanta.
Wound up in Atlanta in the Worldwide Sports Group the year of the summer before the 2002 Olympics in Salt Lake.
Mm-hmm.
And it just so happened that while I was at the Coca-Cola company that summer, again, just kind of, making friends and making connections with people, I met a man that had, in Atlanta, that had gone to Williams College, which any of you from the South, you probably don't know very many people that went to Williams because it's up in the Northeast. It's a small school. And was introduced to a man named Chuck Fruit, who at the time was the head of Worldwide Sports and Entertainment and Media
for the company.
For the company.
And Chuck Fruit, for those who don't know, he passed away, rest his soul. But if you think about it, so Chuck Fruit had been at Anheuser-Busch, and then he was at Coca-Cola, but arguably being the head of global sports for the Coca-Cola company is one of the most powerful positions globally in the world of sports.
That's right.
And so you didn't know Chuck until you were in Atlanta, right?
I did not know Chuck until I was in Atlanta, and someone made a mutual friend made the connection that I had gone to Williams and he had gone to Williams, and so was introduced to him, and he was an exceptional professional, a gentleman, and we just had a really terrific rapport. And so I had lunch with him a few times, and he let me attend some meetings with him that summer. And when I left to go back to school for my second year, kept in touch with him. And towards the end of my second year, he was beginning the negotiations for Coca-Cola sponsorship of the NCAA.
Right.
And we had just dropped the NFL. Pepsi had picked it up. In that transaction, Pepsi drops the NCAA, and we sort of swapped properties. Right. And he was beginning to form the NCAA team in Atlanta, and asked if I was interested in interviewing for a position on that team, which, for someone who's in business school, if you get that phone call, I mean, that is literally dream job, dream job scenario. Mm-hmm. And of course, Vince, for you and I and our relationship and how we met, the rest is history. I moved down to Atlanta, was on the NCAA team with Jim Dinkins, the former president of Coke North America. Mm-hmm. And Jim hired Vince to kick off our partnership, and that's how we met.
Well, and here's what we tell. This is what we tell our students, Kasia, is that you can plot and plan and worry about your path, but your path's going to be your path. Mm-hmm. And particularly, and there's so many things that happen, external circumstances that impact and guide your path that you have nothing to do with. So let's think of the lineage of all of that. You meet Chuck through your network. The Coca-Cola company drops the NFL. one of the biggest decisions, in marketing history. They win the NCAA, and you are brought in through meeting Chuck to onboard the NCAA program. Fortuitously, I've moved to Atlanta to start my business. We meet through Jim Dinkins and some other connections and relationships, and then you start this amazing career, and that was the first career maker for me and Melt. And here we are, 18 years later, having this amazing conversation about it that we're able to share. So you've highlighted a lot of things. Is that you followed your passion, you followed your gut about something you weren't passionate about. You were willing to dive into the deep end. You were willing to try some new things. You were willing to try. You figured out how to channel your passion and love of sports and athletics into a hugely successful, career with the most iconic brand in the world. And then now you're on the front lines of this. And I mean, it's just it's if you were to diagram that on the paper, it looked like a kid had sort of scribbled etch a sketch or something on there. And so you had seen a complete evolution of one of the biggest sports properties in the world, March Madness. 3 weeks viewership, as high as the Super Bowl. You saw it evolve from just CBS to all the Turner networks and all these types of things. But if you had, and I've got 10,000 of them, I'm sure you do too. But of all of the memories of working on March Madness, you have one that sticks out, in your mind. I mean, you and I shared, one of my favorite things of all time that I really miss is every Saturday night of that concert, you and I'd be up on that little side stage, propped up and high fiving and hugging each other, and another success as we look out for like 100,000 people out there screaming on a Rihanna or somebody, Mellencamp or somebody like that. But what in the relationships in your Rolodex that you made out of that, but anything stand out of all of the, I remember you and I even put on the Title IX 40th anniversary celebration in New York City, Columbus Circle, Time Warner Center overlooking. I mean, just so many amazing things, and it really reinforces the importance of student athletes and college sports. We'll talk about that in a minute. But what stands out?
Well, I think, we are both. We've been so fortunate to work for a company like the Coca-Cola company
Oh yeah,
that has the resources and the leadership to allow us to experiment with
right.
some pretty risky ideas. And Vince, you deserve so much credit for those of you that are listening that have been to a Final Four, have been to the March Madness Music Festival. That was really Vince's brainchild. I mean, when we started our sponsorship of the Final Four, it looked very much like any other NCAA championship with absolutely no ancillary programming.
Mm-hmm.
It was just a basketball game. It was a Saturday night basketball game and a Monday night two on Saturday, one on Monday. There was no programming in between.
Right.
And Vince pushed our leadership, pushed our working team to think bigger and more boldly about how Coca-Cola, selfishly for Coca-Cola, how we could make that weekend more enjoyable for each of the communities where it takes place. And that's from an entertainment standpoint with the music festival, and also through community activities and things like that, where we were allowing people who may not have been fortunate enough to participate in the NCAA, in the Final Four games, but to be a part of the Final Four experience. And that vision, coupled with resources, with Coca-Cola, coupled with going back to that relationship, a really strong relationship with a foundation of trust, the NCAA trusted us to create something, which again, if you've been to a Final Four, the music festival is almost, arguably as
Mhm.
fun as the games are.
Yeah.
So that, I think, in terms of things I look back on and what I'm proud of, I'm proud to have been a part of the creation of that and the growth of that, and the watching we know it's successful because you've got two huge sponsors in sports, AT&T and Capital One,
Mhm.
who wanted to be a part of it as much, if not more, than Coke. So that, I think, is, in terms of accomplishments for us as a team, I think the music festival is one that we should be really proud of.
Well, people forget there was no Super Bowl entertainment. I mean, we literally were the first in the world, and then Kasia and I actually streamed the first concert in history on Facebook with Daughtry and Darius Rucker. We're in the control truck and with Ryan Seacrest, the president of Coke at the time, Katie Bain, and I accidentally lean over and unplug the feed, and the so one of many, many, many stories. She and I were trying to get Rihanna to come out of the dressing room after her performance one time. We did a concert in Indy where a tornado hit downtown Indy 20 minutes after, and we had the Coke executives underneath in an underground bar. I mean, just on and
We
on.
had Taylor Swift when she was
We, well,
15.
we had Taylor Swift for her first concert when she was 15 years old. And the only request she made to Kasia, she was opening for Three Doors Down, and she said, "Do you think I can meet the band?" And and we did Carrie Underwood's first show after she won Idol, Kelly Clarkson's first show after she won Idol. We did Chris Brown when he was 16. We sat on the stage with his mother. I mean, just unbelievable things that you can't make up.
You can't make it
And
up.
and we could talk about those all day. But then this has led to your relatively new role, where you're really kind of on the front lines of all the incoming. I mean, Coca-Cola is the most iconic brand in the world. It's in 220, 21, 22 countries. So tell us, kind of give us a description of what you're up to today. Kind of tell us your role and sort of tell us how your college experience sort of has prepared you for all this. Because, one thing, Kasia, we're trying to inspire our kids, we're trying to enlighten our kids. We're also trying to help them understand the many, many jobs that there are in marketing, and it's going to be a very brutal environment in a COVID job search world, because there are going to be fewer jobs sought after by more people who are out of work right now, who are willing to take a lesser job for a lesser salary. And so, what we're trying to do is enlighten um, and really educate our students where these opportunities are. So, talk about kind of what you're doing, now with the company.
Yeah. So, and it, I think talking about what I'm doing now really is honestly I know a lot of your guests have these lessons that they've been conveying to the students, and I think my role now, 18 years into my career at Tower or at the Coca-Cola company, is the lesson I want to sort of leave with the students, which is I had been in I had well right my current role is chief of staff for the senior vice president of public affairs and communications,
Mm-hmm.
and so I am kind of the right hand to the woman that leads all of Coca-Cola North America's government relations, community, and stakeholder partnerships, um, our brand PR team, our sustainability efforts, um, our lobbying efforts, our state and local government relations. So it's quite a big organization, and she is my boss is the most amazing manager I've ever had. She's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and, but I want to back up a second and talk about how I got there and why I got there, which
Mm-hmm.
was, and this is the lesson I'd like to leave with the students, which is I had been in sports marketing for 16 years.
Right.
I absolutely loved my job. I'm sure any of the people listening to this would do anything to work in sports marketing for Coca-Cola, to work on college sports within sports marketing,
Mm-hmm.
and working with the best and the brightest people that you could ever run into at the Coca-Cola company, at CBS, at Turner, at the NCAA. I had just an amazing situation.
Highest levels in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And as I was moving through my career, I absolutely wanted to continue to advance and move further and have more responsibility. But one of the things when I was in business school, the Tuck curriculum is really focused around developing leaders that are self-aware, and that is something that I drew on as I was being very patient and kind of waiting to see what my opportunities might be and what openings might happen within Coca-Cola through people that I worked for leaving or moving on. And I was very patient, waiting for my opportunity to be a leader. And as people were shifting positions, moving around the company, I kind of saw in the tea leaves, this isn't my time, and this isn't going to happen for me the way that I want it to, and the way that I always hoped it would. And so there's a little bit of disappointment when you get to that point,
Right.
but disappointment can turn into bitterness and,
Mm-hmm.
Potentially negativity. And I just was trying to be self-aware and just thought, okay, this isn't, it's not about me. It wasn't about me that it
Right.
wasn't my time. The positions weren't there, the openings weren't there. But I was ready to move on. And so again, it just kind of happened that there was an opening to be the chief of staff for the head of public affairs and communications. And again, through relationships that I had, I just thought, I'm going to take a risk and step out of my comfort zone,
Mm-hmm.
try something different. And it has been the greatest decision I've ever made. I loved my job. I loved my job in sports marketing. I was so passionate about what I worked on and the people that I worked with. It was family.
Right.
But I just knew in my heart that I wasn't done there. I wanted to keep moving, and it wasn't, unfortunately for me, it wasn't going to happen in sports, and that's okay. So I took this role in public affairs and communications. I don't have a background in public affairs and communications, but I say it's the greatest move I've ever made because I took a risk. I was nervous. Definitely, took a while to get ramped up, but new job means in a different area, means a new skill set.
Mm-hmm.
It means a completely new network of people that now I've developed relationships with and developed friendships with, and was again introduced to a leader at the Coca-Cola company who is so inspirational. She's so strategic. She's a good person. She's a really good person. And I am so fortunate because I'm developing this completely new skill set that I would have never gotten if I had continued to move up where I was.
Right.
And, again, being self-aware, that wasn't in the cards for me there, and that's okay. And so now I've got a new skill set, and I don't know what my next role will be, but I'm getting exposure, as you know, as you sort of alluded to the 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 way the Coca-Cola company is handling the COVID crisis, the way the Coca-Cola company is taking a leadership position in the social justice movement,
Mm-hmm.
and it's education. It is. I'm just learning so much, learning
Right.
every day, and I'm well into my career, and still learning, which is a really, really good feeling.
Well, wittingly or unwittingly, what you hit on, and we've heard that from the great leaders and great guests we've had, is that um, don't be afraid to push yourself out of your comfort zone. Don't be afraid to try some things. Failure is only defined as the failure to try, and don't be afraid to sort of dive in the deep end, because really, what's the worst that could happen? And normally, you look back and go, "Wow, that was amazing." And you and I talked about your decision many, many, many times, because like I said, you loved your role, you loved your relationships, but now you're evolving with a whole new set of relationships, and now you've got two or three gigantic sets of relationships. And what people don't understand, and we've educated our listeners a lot about Coca-Cola, is that Coke is also a relationship driven organization, internally and externally. They value those relationships, and those relationships weigh heavily into, everybody just thinks there's business decisions and this and that and the other, but there's everybody else's way in the Coca-Cola way. And I think that, but you hitting on, hey, don't be afraid to try. Don't be afraid to push yourself out of your comfort zone. It usually pays off in the end, and we know we're getting a little short on time. So in your role, you're high profile, you're high visible, you got a giant Rolodex, you've got kids, and one thing that we talked about to a lot of students this summer a lot, Kasia, is they've got to see themselves as a brand. The competition's going to be fierce. Be careful about the grandma test on social media. If you don't want your grandma to see it, don't post it. But if somebody is reaching out to you, whether it's an email or a friend of a friend, obviously you just gave the best case study on networking and relationship building and maintenance of anybody on our podcast. But what is one tip that you would share with our students that gets your attention if they're reaching out to you, similar to how you have, you're in the Hall of Fame of networking and relationship building? What's one sort of tip or trick of the trade that you would share with our students?
I think, Vince, it would be patience,
Right.
because it's all about timing. And when I say timing, I don't mean broad timing. I mean, like, at what point in the day you have reached out to someone, and what they have going on,
Yeah.
and so there's patience, and then there's persistence. And I think there's a balance there of being respectful, and a lot of students, I get, a lot of students reach out to me from Williams and from Tuck, and the timing of it is could be whether there's, just being honest, whether there's a response or not. If it's in on Monday morning at 11 a.m., that's not good timing. The
Right.
professionals are like right in the middle of catching up from the weekend and getting their week started.
Right.
And so I would say, balancing that patience and persistence, so that you stay on top of trying to connect with someone, but also be patient and understanding that they've got a lot of responsibility, and they've got kids, and they've got kids and meetings and
Right.
families, and there's a lot of stuff going on. So I think the people that I connect most with are the ones who are patient with me and
Right.
understanding of, have again, a level of self-awareness of, I know you've got a lot going on. I'd love to talk to you when it's convenient. Just
Yeah, I just wrote down. You just sort of diagrammed it out for me. Patience and timing, gentle persistence, but strike that balance and be respectful of somebody's timing. I mean, that's pretty much what you need to know,
mm-hmm,
because and now, Kasha, and everybody's having to sort of recalibrate or reset against this new Zoom and virtual world, and that we live in. And sometimes that's good. For instance, we're able to do this podcast and share it with thousands of kids, as opposed to when you would come in and speak to our kids and share it with 40. So there's some good things out of it. On the other side, what we're teaching them is the recalibration of busy people's time and executives' time. And then once they do get your attention, how are these proper protocols and how do they work, now in the real virtual world? And so I think that you just sort of, you basically just gave us a textbook on relationships and networking and diving in the deep end, and patience and persistence. I mean, basically are all some of the major big themes that we've talked about this summer. And so this has been, I mean, you and I could talk all day. Maybe we'll collect all of our memories one day, but Kasia, director,
we'll write a book.
Well, we're gonna have to wait till everybody's dead, because we could tell. I mean, just think about it. Just Greg Gumbel and Clark Kellogg and Kenny Smith and Charles Barkley and famous chefs and Rihanna and Mellencamp and Facebook and Ron Seacrest. And I mean, we used to film live commercials that were cut in right before the tip on Monday night, and getting all the executives on and off the stage, and Chris Brown and Taylor Swift. I mean, standing on the banks of the river in Detroit, freezing our off with Fergie and Slash. I mean, it goes on and on and on and on. And but I think just the funnest thing is we were always able to laugh at ourselves and laugh at each other and laugh at other people, and not take all of it too serious as others sort of would. But you think about it, you and I are producing events for 100,000 people, which is a category itself. But Kasia Horner, director of public affairs communications for the Coca-Cola company, amazing 18-year career. I think you see her passion, her gentle passion, huge success as a student athlete, how she followed her passion and her heart and her gut to get into the industry she wanted to be in, how she built these incredible relationships managing one of the most prestigious properties in the world, how she now, then she knew something, she needed to push herself out of her comfort zone, and then talk about how she communicates with people and others on the front line. She basically, you should listen to this over and over, just an amazing textbook of how to build an amazing authentic career. So we certainly appreciate your time and taking time during all this craziness that's going on to share your words of wisdom with the students of Virtual Melt University. Thank you, Kasia.
Thank you, Vince. Flattered that you asked, and good luck to all the students. And just really feel fortunate to be your friend, Vince, and have worked with you for so long. So,
Yeah,
thank you.
Like I said, I miss you, and we gotta connect soon. But Kasia, thank you for joining the students of Virtual Melt University.
Thanks, Vince. Hope you enjoyed today's virtual class. We'll be back soon with another edition of Melt University 2020.